On the slopes of Mount Carmel, where the Mediterranean Sea is already visible and the forests of northern Israel grow denser, lies Isfiya, a Druze village steeped in history, shaped by stone, memory, and a community that has endured for centuries. At its heart stands the Druze Museum, a house of remembrance, but above all, a place of storytelling. It is not a museum in the traditional sense, not a detached exhibition behind glass. Rather, it is a space that seeks connection, encourages dialogue, and understands history as lived experience. The Druze Museum in Isfiya arose from a local initiative. It was founded by the Druze activist Raga Kais Mansour, driven by the desire not only to preserve their culture, but also to make it accessible. For visitors who are often only superficially familiar with the Druze community, it offers a gateway to a world frequently overlooked in public discourse. The museum tells the story of everyday life and tradition, of family and faith, of work, rituals and social bonds. It recounts the history of the Druze, not abstractly, but concretely, through objects, spaces and personal memories. Isfiya itself is part of a historical settlement area on Mount Carmel. Together with the neighbouring Daliat al-Carmel, it forms the centre of the Druze community in this region. The village's history stretches back to the Ottoman era. Houses, alleyways and terraces tell of generations who have lived and worked here, preserving their identity. The museum takes up this local history and weaves it into the broader narrative of the Druze in the Middle East, a religious community with its own teachings, closed belief systems, and strong internal cohesion. In the museum, visitors encounter everyday objects from the early and mid-20th century: agricultural tools, traditional clothing, kitchen utensils and furniture. Things that may seem unremarkable at first glance only reveal their significance through the stories connected to them. They tell of the women's lives, of family roles, of the division of labour and of social responsibility. They tell of a community where honour, loyalty and mutual support are central values. The museum presents a nuanced view of the women's role, neither romanticising nor simplifying it. A complex web of tradition, responsibility and agency becomes visible. The museum is the relationship between Druze and Jews on Mount Carmel and beyond. Even before the founding of the State of Israel, there were contacts, alliances, and forms of cooperation. This history is consciously presented in the museum, not as a political justification, but as part of a local culture of remembrance. The Druze in Israel continue to occupy a unique social position. They are Arabic-speaking, religiously distinct, and deeply integrated into the Israeli civic community. This multifaceted identity shapes their identity and is presented in the museum as a historical development. A visit to the museum is usually embedded in personal encounters. Often, people from the village itself guide visitors through the rooms, sharing their own perspectives and enriching the exhibition with memories, anecdotes and explanations. In this way, the museum becomes a place of dialogue. Culture here is not presented as a closed chapter of the past, but as something that lives on, evolves, and must be continually retold. Often, walks through the old village centre are part of the experience. Past historic buildings, places of worship, and old olive presses. The surroundings become part of the narrative. The Druze Museum in Isfiya thus sees itself as a cultural bridge between past and present, between a local community and an international audience. It invites visitors to look more closely, to listen, and to question conventional notions. In a region often perceived only through the lens of conflict, this place offers a different perspective. It speaks of continuity, of cultural depth, and of a daily life that endures despite political tensions. In the end, one leaves the museum not just with information, but with impressions, with voices, images, and stories that resonate long after the visit. The Druze Museum in Isfiya is not a place for quick answers. It is a place for slow, deliberate exploration. And therein lies its special significance.
When it connects, give me 1 second. So here you can see.